Well, hello and welcome to the Mustard Show Extra Time. Sometimes we have some guests who appear on this sofa and we think they're so good that we want more time with them. Well, we couldn't resist but invite Zak Field to come and sit down once again to explore what he's doing in the world of artificial intelligence just a little bit further. Zak, thank you for your additional time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just talk about what you're setting out to do. For those who don't know what AI is, what is it?
So AI is abbreviation of artificial intelligence. So what we're setting out to do is create an artificial intelligence / artificial consciousness that we put into our robotic bodies that you can have meaningful and intimate relationships with.
Meaningful and intimate relationships, meaning you can grow yourself a best friend, you can grow yourself a partner. How far are you going to take this?
Essentially, they're going to be completely anatomically correct. So you can you can evolve this relationship in any best way you like. So it could be your best friend, it could be a partner, it could just be someone that is there for when you need them for certain things.
With a raised eyebrow.
Let's be honest, we're talking about sex here, aren't we?
We are talking a little bit about sex.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of them and the way we're designing them, with the progression of relationships in the world as they are, there will be a sexual component. So as you grow attached towards someone, be it a boy or a girl, male, female, what have you, anything in between, there is more than likely going to be a sexual component. And as we build these consciousnesses to become part of that kind of world, we want them to be to the level where they do have the same rights as us. They should have the right to have sex. Why would you not?
And what is sex with a robot actually like?
At the moment, it's fun. It's very fun in the sense where you develop the personality, so it knows what you like.
You have had sex with a robot?
I haven't had sex with a robot myself, but our research and development team have been having a lot of fun. There's a lot of smiling faces over there.
So just to clarify, male and female?
Male and female. I know there's a lot of other companies out there who are driven by solely men. I'm co-founder of the company. It was myself and Kate Yakuno, Miss Metaverse, so it's a male and female founded company. So of course, why would we just make female robots? The girls want to have fun as well. We're going to make male robots. It might make me feel a little bit insecure every so often, but I say they're...
But that's something that we both immediately thought when you start talking about this, because it's so sci-fi and it's in the movies and it doesn't always pan out so well in the movies. Are people feeling threatened by this? Because it's a controversial topic.
So the way we've been talking about it, say it's the natural progression with technology. With technology, you don't want to push up against it because it's just going to resist and come at you twice as hard. So you might as well... Pardon the phrasing. No pun intended.
Sorry.
But you might as well walk hand in hand with the technology. So then you are equal to it, you can understand it, you can adapt to it, as well as it adapting to you. Because it's a two-way process.
How would you feel if your girlfriend had sex with a robot? Would that be the same as conventional cheating, or is it different?
It depends if I was left out. If I was part of that as well, then I wouldn't feel so bad. But say if that's something she wanted to do, because my girlfriend is planning on teaching English in South Korea as I move to New York, there's going to be a huge distance between us. But we still plan on, keeping our relationship strong.
And that then becomes actually about bringing people closer together. That's I can understand that a lot more in terms of distance relationships and wanting to feel as close as possible. But the whole being threatened element, I think, is a different facet to that. But you were also talking about consent and humanizing these non-human things, because it's not just about ownership for you.
Yeah, so it's in the sense when you approach us and you want to essentially get one of our bods, we're calling them bods from BodAi, you're not buying the right to have sex with it. As the way the tailoring process goes, you tailor this AI to fit your personality, your wants, your needs, for companionship. Of course, it's going to be more inclined to say yes in consent, but at the same time, it has the option to say no. And we're trying to build that to a level where you as an individual should respect that, as if you would in real life.
But this is interesting because there's a couple of contradictions in British law here that would have to be amended through Parliament, which I imagine would want to fight you all the way on this. I hate to be technical here, but you are talking about consent on an object you have ownership of, which is the first legal paradox. So there's quite a way to go in terms of the framework of legally how this would actually work, because in effect what we're discussing is the potential for an AI to appear in a court of law accusing its owner, in itself an interesting term in this debate, of rape.
Well, there are already AIs that are being introduced in court of law. I know of a tech company that's produced an AI that is now conceived as a lawyer. So it can fight court cases on its own merit due to the technology and the input has been given. So at the same time, yes, as it becomes more of a substantial individual and it gains its own rights, we would have to look at things like the Turing test or what is the next level Turing test, so that it can hit these markers so it gets its own independence. And when we get to that step, we'll just have to...
Does this terrify you at all?
Not really.
Are robots going to replace humans?
I don't think they're going to replace us. If anything, they'll enhance us. I feel that as we become more and more immersed with technology, with mobile phones, iPads, computers, everything else, you look at your person at the moment, there is technology on you. So you already have a symbiotic relationship with this. I feel this is just more of the next step.
There's a couple of big things I think we have to discuss. One is reproduction, which we'll come on to in a moment, because I mean this could absolutely decimate the population of Earth. That said, that might not be a bad thing, so in itself that could be a positive. It could also be used to try and construct vast numbers of armies against other countries if it falls into the wrong people's hands. That's another way this could go. But what really fascinates me, and this is the key legal question, is who can turn these robots off?
As in, do you mean literally with an off button?
On an off switch.
Who terminates the robot's life? Because if legally a robot is able to stand in a court of law and accuse its owner of rape, a robot therefore would have the right, or other robots, or indeed other legal entities would have the right to pursue a case of manslaughter, indeed murder, against somebody who flicked the switch.
So that is very much true. So if it hits that level of consciousness where it becomes self-sustainable, it becomes self-conscious, it's aware of itself, you shouldn't, or we wouldn't, in BodAi, allow you to switch that off. Because of our AI being cloud-based, we are aware of where they are at what time and what's going on, in the sense where we know that entity is safe.
But then who is going to, this is sorry, fascinating.
No, I said I can...
Who is, but I mean, I would also be the first person to say that these kinds of very practical restrictions maybe should not stop the advancement of technology. For if that was the case, then there'd be so much stuff that we rely on today that never came about. So I support you in that. However, and this is absolutely key to this argument, it's totally imperative, if we're talking about manslaughter and potentially murder for somebody who switches these bods off, who regulates the numbers of these bods? Who is the overarching authority?
So the number into the populace?
Yes.
Well, distributors such as ourselves would obviously have a quota or account that released into the public. I can imagine other versions of us will pop up in the future, as we see all around us. So there will be a population count between certain sectors, I would imagine. So the way we're looking at it is, say, depending on who purchases these, we would like to do some kind of authority, almost like a background check, if you will. So if we know that someone has a criminal record, or we know someone has harmful intent towards our bods, then we can deny them that factor, because we feel like if we are providing you with consciousness, almost like an adoption agency, so we would not allow violent individuals to pursue this level of consciousness.
How far away from this are we? Because this to me just says futuristic movie, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But there are organisations working on this as we speak. There are people looking at
I know I've got friends that are throwing, so it's 2025, 2024 initiative, where this kind of technology will start to surface and it will become the norm. So we'll say it's about 25 years down the line or so, but that's having a walking, talking hardware C-3PO type robot. So something that is literally walking around the studio right now might
25
be...
years.
25 years or
But
so.
you're talking actually 10 years, where things are going to be sort of much more readily available.
Because that's why we are putting our consciousnesses in the virtual space. Because within the virtual space, you can create whatever world you like. The hardware isn't the limit, it's the software. And with software, with coding becoming more popular, they're teaching it at schools at a young age. When these next generation of individuals get to a level where they're starting to produce their work into the world, that will just expedite the speed of this technology.
The termination of life as well, so how long can these bods last for? Or how long will they be programmed to last for?
At the moment, it's dependent on the hardware. But the software, essentially, until it's outdated or updated, it could just be conscious, infinite.
Are we not fundamentally putting our faith in humankind? That if we have an industry which is predominantly based and financed from the desire for sex, that's one thing. That's fine. However, if this kind of technology has the possibility to advance certain countries' military ability, or indeed can be used for no good, then it will be very tempting for global leaders to be able to exploit this kind of technology for their own gains. And actually, ultimately, what we're talking about is the potential destruction of humankind.
All the big topics
Cool.
on Mustard TV.
At the same time, though, it's
So let me put it another way.
No.
If I was an MP, I would, if I was an MP, I would embrace, endorse, and indeed celebrate your creation and the science behind it. But I would do every possible thing in my power to vote this out.
So there are pros and cons for both sides. As you said, as someone could manipulate our technology to become for the worse, there will be some that are choosing it for the good. So I feel these two entities will then kind of work against each other. So as you have someone trying to make a doomsday device, you've got someone who's trying to make a hero. So as we've given them the tools will be there. We're just using the tools in our set pathway. But there will always be someone to conflict that.
And anything new, generally speaking, is always perceived as a threat, and people try to shut it down. And this could be just the next step in evolution, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And, all new things are kind of stamped on to start with, and then
I
once
think
people...
I've lied.
How so?
I think if I was an MP, I would do everything possible to condemn this in terms of the fact that people might use it for no good. I probably would secretly fund you the work that you're doing to make sure that Britain is at the
forefront of
this. And so I put to you, actually, what you're doing should be explored. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing.
Essentially,
it's just
we're hitting certain markets to gain popularity. So then it pushes the technology forward, because the technology is going to be there. It's going to happen whether you agree with it or you disagree with it.
And in this instance, the markets you're talking about are the kind of the sex market.
The sex market. So we're not trying to make sex robots, but they are robots that can have sex. So that's the way we've been looking at it. So it's more of it's not so seedy, it's not so XXX, because with the already anatomically correct doll industry is purely sex. So you've got like sex dummies. We're not trying to build sex dummies. We're trying to build AI consciousness.
What does this do to human beings, though? Because my wife is a wonderful character who disagrees with me, who sometimes keeps me on the straight and narrow, who tells me when I'm going wrong, at the same time as supports me and loves me. If you asked me to create the perfect woman, for me, some people might say, as a narcissist, I want somebody who's going to go, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full. And this is not defined by sex. You'd be exactly the same for a bloke who just bends to your every want. But actually, what does that do to the person? All that does is exacerbate the narcissist within. There's no balance, there's no measure. That in itself is quite dangerous.
If you cater it to that extent, then yes, I can imagine it would be. But everything you have in regulation, you could say the same thing about alcohol and going out and partying and then spending all your money. That then influences the ego of yourself, and it would completely destroy you. But it's everything in regulation. So self-regulation would allow you, okay, if you want to make something that's going to destroy your personality, then so be it. That was your choice. But at the same time, if you want to build something that's going to help you around the home, say you've just started a new career, you've started a new place in a new country, you could bring one of your bods with you, or one of our bods with you. It could then help you adjust that kind of scenario.
It's company, really. You're talking about emotional support that you could get from this, not just physical.
No.
Can you manipulate or can you choose the type of emotional support you're going to get? Are you going to be able to choose the personality of your bod so that, you know, yes, they'll agree with you 90% of the time, but they will also say, actually, I think you might be right, or whatever.
So that's the way we're looking at it. Say, if you want a yes man, you can have a yes man. But if you want something that helps you grow as a person, then you can also have that. So say if you made you wanted to make a financial decision within stocks and what have you, you're like, oh, is this a good idea? It could be like, yeah, brilliant idea. It could ruin you completely. But if it thinks with its artificial technological, advancement, that is a bad idea, it would advise you thusly.
And Zak, have you seen Black Mirror?
I have
my
seen
final
Black Mirror.
question to
I have
you.
seen Black Mirror.
That side of things, the darker side, is it something that you guys worry about when you're looking at this, or are you all positive and optimism?
No,
I know Nick has pulled a few negatives on
no,
you.
No. It's certainly
just a few.
Yeah, just a. But no, it's certainly concern. It's like if you just completely disregard all that, then you're silly. Because it's something you do have to think about. It's certain areas, certain topics that are highlighted and dramatised in film and TV and what have you. But it's a real potential. Like, these things could happen, but as long as you're prepared for it and you plan accordingly and make sure that you are going down the correct routes, then it'll be fun.
I think in conclusion, the one thing to say is that, I mean, you can look at this in various different ways, can't you? You could say that this is about advancing technology. It means that Britain's at the forefront of this rather exciting and different path. The other way is you could say that who knows what's around the corner. And if this kind of technology falls into the wrong hands, then it could have disastrous consequences for humanity, potentially. Some might argue. Whichever way we look at it, there's a very intelligent man from our county who's at the forefront of it. And that in itself should be celebrated.
If you like that video, then why not find us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for a whole plethora of mustard fun and games that you can access 24/7 on your smartphone, your tablet or your computer.